Okay, so now we're recording, and it is darn near 5 o'clock, so I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Ledyard Town Council Finance Committee to order. And present are Councilors Engel and Malone, Mayor Allen, Roxanne Marr, Councilor Davis, Day Reporter Amanda Hutchinson, Finance Director Marcia Hancock. Have I missed anyone?
Fred.
Who did I miss?
Fred.
Yeah, I got Fred.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess Kathy Demetrius is not going to be present. Marcia, do you know?
I don't think we were planning on it, but we do have her recommendation, Bill.
Yeah, I see that. I made an assumption it was wrong. How about Chief Rich? You know what? I think I'm reading the minutes here. Hang on.
I did give you some stuff, but maybe he's not coming.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll fool with that later. Sorry. So, are there, this is Councilor Bill Soms, also present. It is time for citizens' comments. If there are any, please unmute yourself and state your name. Hearing none. I have no informational items. I would entertain a motion for review and approval of the minutes.
Move that we accept the regular meeting minutes of April. I'm sorry, this is Councilor Ingalls. Move that we approve the regular meeting minutes of April 1, 2020.
Thank you.
Councilor Malone seconds.
Thank you, Tom. Any corrections, comments? Ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And that was all three. Councilor Soms, Ingalls, and Malone voted aye. The meeting passed, or the motion passes unanimously. Okay. Marcia, anything to report under finance?
Marcia commented in the chat that she's trying to get in. Did she ever get in?
Oh, okay. I thought I saw her. Now
I am, hi, it's Marcia. I am calling in because I couldn't get the audio to work. I can see you all, but I can't hear you. So I'll listen to you on here.
I think we'll probably hear Marcia in a little while. Sometimes these links take a while to set up, so we'll come back to Marcia if we need to. So under old business, we have a motion regarding the revenues from the multi-use track and field. And Tom, Andrea and I looked at this. I'm going to share it on my screen here. We looked at it last 2 weeks ago at the meeting, and we think the resolution is ready to approve, or at least to recommend to the town council. But I got to move some stuff out of the way. Bear with me. Hang on. Okay, so you should be able to see the resolution on your screen.
Yeah, Bill, I did my homework on this one, so I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Are there any final comments?
No final comments.
Okay, I guess we need a motion.
I'll move it. I move that we recommend the council, sorry, this is Councilor Ingalls. I'll get used to that. I move that we recommend the council approve a proposed resolution regarding the establishment of an account for the revenues received from leasing the Ledyard High School multi-use facility as contained in the draft dated April 1st, 2020.
Councilman Malone, seconds.
Thank you, Tom. Having trouble navigating again, bear with me. Okay, the motion is made and seconded. Any further comments? Ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye with your name.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And Councilor Solms votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much. We will move this on to the council now. Next up is discussion regarding the undesignated fund balance. We have an item on the agenda that we're not ready to move tonight, so I will not discuss this unless anyone has anything that they want to talk about. But at our next meeting, we'll move some funds left over from the police station into the undesignated fund. Other than that, I don't have anything on this item. And then next on budget preparation, looking for input from Councilor Davis and Mayor Allen. I don't think we need to do anything on this tonight either, or next week. The active date is May 15th, and since we're not going to move the budget to a public hearing, I don't think there's anything we need to do at tonight's meeting either. Mayor, would you agree?
I do agree. I think it's something that we need to be prepared for in May, but not yet.
Okay.
Agree.
And same was that Linda? Thank you. Same with item 4, the public hearing date. We don't need to set that at tonight's meeting either. So that's it for old business. Does anyone wish to amend the agenda under new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion for the first item.
All right, let me get there. All right, this is Councilor Malone. I make a motion to authorize the purchase of a server for the 911 dispatchers emergency medical dispatch program in the amount of $5,047.23.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you. Discussion. Mayor, do you want to take the lead on this? I know we've all read the document, but
So as you may recall, early last year, the dispatch through the police made a recommendation to do an upgrade. We had a choice of operating systems. The dispatch center currently uses a program called PowerPhone, and they opted to stay with PowerPhone but go with an upgraded, improved version of PowerPhone. So that purchase was approved by Finance and Council last year. They got the module for that new PowerPhone setup, and unbeknownst to us, the server that we have lacks robustness to be able to support the new PowerPhone. So the PowerPhone module has basically been shelved until we have a server that can handle the draw that this thing has for computing. So it was kind of discouraging to hear that, and that it wasn't wasn't vetted out well, or even by the salespeople, but regardless, that's where we are. And so we had originally budgeted like $8,000 for its replacement. However, we were able to piggyback on a state contract that the state now has with Dell. Governor Lamont has entered into an agreement with Dell, and the pricing is very favorable. So the number has come down substantially over where we were. But like I said, it's an important piece to be able to get the system operational. At this point, we've been paying for probably 8 months of the year for a system that we can't use.
Mayor, it's the chief. I'm also here on audio if you need me.
Okay, thank you. Did I summarize it reasonably?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I noticed the state contract is extremely valuable in terms of savings. It's $1,200 less than Dell Direct.
Yeah,
Pretty good deal.
it is. It really is.
Okay. Councilor Ingalls, Councilor Malone, questions, comments?
I have no questions.
No questions, no comments.
Okay, I concur. We have to do this. All part of the what we're going to. So, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye. State your name.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And Councilor Psalms votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next looks at, can you guys see my screen? Or is it just
Yeah,
a total?
I
I
can see.
can see it, but it's so small that I cannot effectively read it. I
Oh, okay.
printed out an agenda for myself.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd be treated to me doing this for the whole meeting.
So what's up next? Text, is it text deferment? You're up next, Andra, with text deferment.
We ready, Bill?
We're ready.
I make a motion the council approve a proposed resolution regarding a tax deferment program pursuant to Governor Lamont's Executive Order 2020-7S as contained in the draft dated April 13th, 2020.
Councilor Malone seconds.
Thank you. So, this is Councilor Psalms. I went through the actual resolution. I found some typos in it. I had some questions about an end date. And I sent the non-substantive changes to Roxanne because they're just typos. But the only question I had was about the end date of the order. It says that the order goes into effect on July 1st, 2020, and taxes are deferred for 90 days, but it's silent on when the program ends, when this ordinance ends. So I went back and looked at the governor's order itself, which I'll try to bring up here. And the relevant part is highlighted in yellow here. And there's no mention of an end date here, but because this ordinance or this order covers so much, I went to the end, and it seems to say that this will remain in effect while the emergency is in effect. Specifically, it says until 30 days after the end of the public health and civil preparedness urgency, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, such adjourn date shall be no earlier than 30 days after the end of the public health and civil preparedness emergency. It goes on about sales. And then it talks about the time period from March 10, 20, which is when the emergency was declared, to the end of the emergency shall be considered a holding period. And then it talks about redemption interest. That doesn't make complete sense to me, so I'm just putting it out there to ask the mayor or Marcia or anyone if we know how this Ledyard Town Council ordinance will go out of effect, because the way I'm reading it, taxes due July 1st will be affected for sure and deferred 90 days. But my question is, what happens to taxes that are due January 1st of 2021?
Right, and I think that the general feeling is that this is they're probably not thinking about should the coronavirus situation continue into that time period. So I don't even think that's been given a lot of consideration on the state level. I think they're all thinking that this will be over in May or June at the latest. So I think the general consensus is that it's all being viewed as simply a 90-day deferral on the taxes. But in terms of the required resolution that Office of Policy Management requires us to put in place, we probably need to have some sort of sunset on it.
Yeah. So I think, Mayor, this is Councilor Sons, I think that with an ordinance, we can change an ordinance at any time. So we could, if we did not have a sunset, we could always vote to terminate the ordinance, I believe. And since we don't know when this, go ahead, Linda.
Just for clarification, this is a resolution and it's not an ordinance, so it's two different processes. This is a resolution.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Roxanne.
Right.
Can we terminate a resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
So we also polled. We had a COG meeting this morning, and we polled the COG member towns, and all but one town opted for the deferral program as opposed to the low interest program. So it
no
seems
surprise.
to be the way that they're going, and the Tax Collectors Association of the state feels the same way, that the deferral program is the better option. So I think what you've got in front of you is the right way. It's, I guess, a matter of pulling back on the resolution at the right time.
Mhm.
And just furthering this, one of the things that we were talking about was the state has come up with an application process for people, which is, I wouldn't say onerous, but it involves some paperwork. And in speaking with Kathy, we have almost 6,900 individually taxed parcels in the town of Ledyard. And let's just say that 1,200 of those qualify for this program. We don't have the manpower / woman power in town hall to vet 1,200 applications for this. It would require a whole nother job. So
Wow.
what we're really thinking is that the deferral is just open and available for everybody that doesn't have their taxes escrowed. They can take advantage of this 3-month grace period, if you will.
Without filing an application.
Right. Exactly. Because we
That
were
makes
thinking
sense.
about the
Yeah.
application process, the vetting out of the applications to determine somebody's eligibility, followed by invariably, some percentage of them are going to come in with some level of incompleteness, at which point somebody's going to have to communicate with the applicant. Oh, we need this, so we need that. And so the feeling was it's not worth that process versus just saying it's available for everybody, understanding that everybody that has their taxes escrowed right now by a lender or a servicing company, they do not qualify.
Right. That makes sense to me, Mayor.
We think so too.
Okay. Councilors?
I'm good with the process.
Okay. Councilor Ingalls?
It had me wondering if we should include language that specifies this is for taxes that are due July 1. When I first read the resolution, I assumed, And I did not have the same concern that you shared about what happens if we get to January 1, because I assumed this would all be resolved by then. But now reading back through the resolution, I guess I'd like to know that we either like mark the calendar to review this. God help us if we're not, if December's coming and we're still in the thick of this, mercy.
Yeah.
I'd either like to see language in the resolution or somebody mark the calendar that we need to revisit this. And maybe it's just easier to mark the calendar.
I think that's probably the right thing to do. So that your comment will be in the minutes, and Roxanne, when you're writing up the minutes, can you just put some kind of a tickler in for 3 months from now for us to look at this again?
Yes, I can do that. Or you could just add language that would say that this tax deferment program exists upon the end of the COVID national emergency or state emergency.
Okay.
It would be, whatever the finance committee would prefer.
Why don't we do that? Let's add a clause to it that says this resolution shall terminate upon the termination of the national emergency. And we can move this on to the council. I'm sorry?
Should we make it specific to the state, not the nation?
Probably, yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So it shall terminate upon
The lifting of the emergency orders.
Yep.
Okay, I
From
just
the
want to make
governor
sure
of the
I have.
state of Connecticut.
Well, I would just give us a little bit more flexibility and just, this is Councilor Malone, and just say no more than 30 days after the lifting of the national emergency, because, it may get lifted on a Thursday and then we have to act on it. So.
Good point. Yeah.
Just
So
giving us a
I'm
little-
going to propose
little more
that
flexibility there.
Roxanne put together. Sorry, Tom.
Go ahead. I just want to give
I'm
us a
gonna
little bit
propose-
more flexibility on the, on the administrative side.
I agree. So this is Councilor Psalms. I'm going to propose that that Roxanne provide us with language. I will work with her on the language based on the comments this evening, and I'm proposing that we move this forward with the added language to the town council.
Councilor Malone concurs.
Agree.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor, ready to vote? Please say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
Councilor Psalms votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you all. Next item, please. Who would like to make an agenda or a motion?
As Councilor Malone, I make a motion to appoint Bloom Shapiro to conduct auditing services for the general government, WPCA, and schools for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, in accordance with Chapter 3, Section 11 of the Town Charter, and parents RFP number 2018-070, auditing services.
Councilor Ingalls seconds.
Thank you. I'm trying to get my voting thing to work here. Mayor, would you take us through this one, please?
Yep. So as you know, we had RSM, Gladry was the company before that, was taken over by RSM Auditing. We always felt like when we were sitting there for the audit presentation, as he hopped around, we could never really understand what it is that we were getting and we were paying for. And that was as I sat as where you are now as finance. And we, at the end of our term, we were required to go back out to bid. We did. Bloom Shapiro bid. We always felt like they were a little bit pricey, but they came in on the money for this. And as you recall, with several audit cycles now under our belt, the feeling when they come in, both when they come into town hall, and they are extremely thorough in town hall with interviewing employees and reviewing accounts. They do a great job on that, but equally important, if not more important, when they present their reports, the financial findings reports to the finance committee, it's actually something that you can understand. And when they answer your questions with responses that you can understand. So we've been generally impressed with what they're doing. They're well thought of, and we support their efforts so far.
Yeah, this is Councilor Solms. I concur, Mayor, with everything you said, and most importantly, perhaps, that we wanted recommendations from our auditor for all the money that is spent, and for all the amount of work that the town employees put into conducting the audit to the auditor's satisfaction. When we get to the end of it, we want to know what we can do better. And we are getting that from this firm. We get very specific recommendations about what we've improved on since the last audit and what we need to do next to improve the process. And further, if I understand this correctly, we've come through a 2-year contract and we have 2 option years. This is the first of the 2 option years. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I am very much in favor of this recommendation. Motion. Councilors?
This is Councilor Malone. I would just echo everything both Councilor Solomon and the mayor said, only because, you know, they present their material in a plain language, solid recommendation. Here's what you're not doing well. Here's what you need improvement on. Here's what you need to take it and pay attention to today and then next year. And they've given us a lot of great advice on how to get on the right track. And I was here for the other firm, which it almost seemed like we were pulling teeth with those guys to give us some recommendations sometimes. With Bloom Shapiro, we might be paying a little bit more, but I think the advice is definitely worth the premium.
Thank you. Councilor Ingalls.
Councilor Ingalls, excuse me, I agree. I sat through one of the audit reports with the previous auditors and with Bloom Shapiro, and the difference is obvious. So I agree.
Okay. You guys ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Councilor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And Councilor Solms votes aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Councilor Ingalls, I make a motion to transfer $506,400.
Andra, I apologize. I should have read it. This is the one we're not going to move on. I apologize.
Okay. Are we on item 5?
We are on item 5, the water budget.
Okay, got it. Excuse me. I make a motion to recommend the council adopt a proposed fiscal year 2020/2021 water operations budget in the amount of $895,575.70.
Councilor Malone seconds.
Thank you. Okay, so let me get the water operations budget up here. I think we can move this forward because I don't believe we're going to have any more action on it, and we can move it forward, but the council doesn't have to act on it until we get the rest of the budget moved forward as well. So I'm going to open up the water operations budget. just point out a couple of things on it, if I can. Yeah, here it is. I've got to make this a little smaller. Hang it, bear with me. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Here we'll see that Route 12 bonds have been retired. This is for the Route 12 water main. We are finally getting to the end of those bonds. Secondly, water purchase. I don't know if you can make heads or tails of this screen, but Route 12 water purchase. The WPCA for years has noted a decline in actual gallons used. The dollar value doesn't always go down, but it's a continuing trend that water conservation is working in Ledyard, both on the Route 117 and the Route 12 water systems. The only other thing that I want to touch on, we've talked about this in the past, is there is a rate increase coming. I couldn't see that it's been addressed. I don't believe it is. The decision was made between the WPCA on the advice of the Finance Committee not to reflect the water rate increase in their budget, because it will happen in the fourth quarter, and a 5% increase in the Groton utility water rate really means a 2 or 3% increase for Ledyard ratepayers. And the thinking at the WPCA has been that they need to pass these small increases on, but they are not reflected in this budget. So that's all I had for this. Does anybody have questions? Okay, hearing none. Are you guys ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. State your name.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Councilor Malone votes aye.
And Councilor Solomon votes aye. Motion passes. Carried unanimously.
What's the next?
I thought I marked who moved it. Andre, did you move this one?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is a discussion on the treasurer's position. The town council annually appoints the treasurer, but I think we've got some things to think about, talk about here, and I'd like to turn it over to the mayor to give us his thoughts on what we need to do here with the treasurer.
All right, let's, excuse me, am I unmuted at this point?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
All right, so with Nancy's retirement, pending retirement, we decided it was worth looking at how business is done in other communities for the treasurer position. And we pulled a number of communities in our area. I included some commentary when Roxanne was putting this together, but how things are done varies widely. Whether, like in Stonington, it's somebody that literally comes in and signs checks and signs bond documents, and that's it. Or it can be a full-time position. Sometimes it's a position that's shared with somebody else that has other financial responsibilities in the town. Sometimes it's a dedicated individual, full-time, part-time, and everywhere in between. So we looked at it, and we looked at the workload that is available in Ledyard, and we felt that there could be a good opportunity in Ledyard to save some money and to delegate some of the town treasurer responsibilities to the assistant finance director, with another piece of those duties going to the fiscal assistant too, which is CJ. And in separating those, we still have a good system of checks and balances. And we save the town money, we shed a position, and we think that we become equally as efficient as we are now, if not more so. And let's see, the last thing, and Marcia's going to chime in on this too, but I guess that was it. I lost the thought, so if it comes back to me, I will speak up.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry about
Marcia,
that.
did you want to weigh in?
I'm sorry, was that me you were calling?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm on a phone, so it's I'm getting a lot of feedback. But I wanted to say that we think this is a really good a good way to proceed, and we're proposing an increase, a slight increase in both the fiscal assistant 2, and then a larger increase for the assistant finance director as he picks up part of the most of the responsibilities of the treasurer, with the clerical responsibilities going to CJ, as the mayor said. We're in the process of putting a job description together, and we thought that this would be the first good step, the good first step, to have the council talk about this, decide what you want to do, and then perhaps pass it along to admin to deal with the job description. We hope to have that ready in the next week and a half or so. And then if this all pans out, the training will start between Nancy and Ian, and we should be all set to go by the time Nancy, unfortunately, leaves the town.
And we are not looking forward to that date.
No, we are not.
We did also run this by Bloom Shapiro, an opinion, and it was viewed favorably.
Okay. So I have some questions about our form of government and our checks and balances. There are 2 employees in the town who work for the town council. One is the treasurer, and the other is the executive assistant. So our government works very smoothly right now because we have a good working relationship between the Board of Ed, the town council, and the mayor. My question is, what does this do in terms of consolidating financial authority or deconsolidating financial authority, which currently lies with the town's legislative body, which is the town's council? So to say that another way, you have a separation of power, if you will, with the town council having oversight of the finances of the town, including the work and the reporting relationship with the treasurer. So what does that do to that separation of power, if you will?
I don't know if it would work well in the long run if there wasn't a good working relationship, but the way we anticipated the reporting of this is that anything that the treasurer currently reports to the town council, or any work that is done jointly between the treasurer and the town council, would continue in the way it does now, and then that oversight would still be there.
Okay. So is our goal to, I assume our goal is to reduce cost to the town?
Yeah, that is part of this. Substantial reduction in costs and benefits and positions, yes. And Marcia, go ahead and chime in too.
Yes, that's part of it. The other part was because Ian has had this kind of experience in another town, we figured it would be a good way. We know that he's capable of this, and not only would we save money, but the processes would continue as they are now without a lot of training time that would be required of somebody different.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing I think we should always consider too is last time we needed to go out for a treasurer's position, it was not an easy situation to fill. We ended up, as you recall, giving a raise to Nancy to keep her there for 2 more years, I think was the call for duty. Some of these positions are a little bit harder than others to fill with capable people. We were really lucky to have Nancy.
Yeah, we are. So, in my experience, when you divvy up work from one person's job to several other people, it often adds to the total amount of work and time expended. So my question is, could we reduce the hours of the position and keep it whole? In other words, we have the same person reduce the hours and save money that way, and notwithstanding what you just said, Mayor, about difficulty in finding people. But my concern is whether we would really save money by splitting up the responsibilities to people who already have other work to do, and whether that really would that end up with us needing to provide more hours than we thought we would provide to those folks.
I think because we have 2 employees in CJ and Ian that are so incredibly efficient, I don't think we're going to be faced with an issue of either of them being overburdened. They both seem to be hungry for more work, and they gobble it up quickly. And I also think that Ian will be very responsive to you. As Nancy has been, Ian will be equally so.
Got it. Okay. Councilor Ingalls, Councilor Malone, your thoughts?
Mayor, I appreciate that you asked Bloom Shapiro for their opinion on the question. To Bill's concern about checks and balances and the fact that, as Marcia said, it works well now because there's a good working relationship between the town and the board. Did Bloom Shapiro, in their viewing it favorably, did they speak at all to that working relationship? Did they seem to indicate that that would be necessary going forward? Was that not mentioned?
No, I think that their focus was more about does this meet the sniff test for them in terms of checks and balances, irregardless of people in positions and the flow between mayor, council, and Board of Ed right now. So I think they were just purely looking at it from the perspective of operationally, does it work? And it was yes. It's just, I agree that it's a matter of who is in each of those seats.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is Councilor Malone. I have several questions. First of all, the treasurer has some signatory authorities in the town, I'm sure, signing documents or tax refund or whatever it might be, checks. Who's going to hold that signatory authority between those 2 people?
Ian.
So effectively, Ian will be the treasurer, legally speaking.
Yes. So for more details on the breakdown, Ian would be doing he would have the signatory authority. He would be the one to sign off on the bonds and notes when we go out to borrow. He would be handling all the bank transfers between the different accounts and doing the deposits that come in. Where the separation would be between what Nancy does now and what CJ would be doing is that Nancy does a lot of entry into Munis after deposits are made. That's very time consuming, and CJ would be doing that. She's very good with Munis and understands it very well. CJ would be doing all of the bank reconciliations. She does most of them already, but Ian has been doing the more, the tougher ones, the payroll account and the main general fund account. And so CJ will pick those up now. And so really, Ian is going to be picking up the responsibility part of it and the legal treasurer position. And then CJ is going to be behind him doing the reconciliations, and then I will be approving her reconciliations, whereas Ian does that now. But we're not going to have Ian, he's going to do what he does, and then it goes on to somebody else to approve.
Who is the somebody else?
Well, in the case, it depends. In this case, where CJ is doing the bank reconciliations, she is in effect verifying and confirming and reconciling the actions that Ian has taken, and then I will be approving those bank reconciliations.
Okay, I just have one more question. Have we run this by an attorney in any form or fashion who understands signatory authority and municipal liability with regard to the title of treasurer?
No. But I feel comfortable that we can certainly do that. The auditors, if they had any concern about the legality of it, I think they would have said that, but it's an added step that we could take to ensure that we're doing the right thing.
Well, I just think it would be due diligence to check that block independently of the auditors, because we are ultimately responsible for our own destiny with regard to our legality.
Yes.
Who signs documents and checks now under the current arrangement?
It's a double signature, Nancy and myself. And on the Board of Ed side, it's Nancy and I think it's the chair of the board.
It is.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Good discussion. I hear I understand the goal. I hear the intent. I think I'd like to think about it. I think we should all think about it and talk about it some more. And the reason I'm being hesitant is the town has some past experiences that we're all well aware of, and part of them had to do with structural and organizational issues. And what I'm talking about is when things went wrong financially. We had two major cases, and I think we need to be very careful about this. And I agree, we've got excellent people now. I just don't want to be responsible for creating a structural and organizational change that is later the root of, they shouldn't have done this, and there's your news story. So I would like to think about it some more.
Understood. You need to be comfortable with it since it's your appointment.
Yeah, this is Councilman Malone. I'm just hesitant for all the things Councilor Soms just said, and more so for the liability aspect. And how much we're putting on these two individuals, and do they understand, one, their fiduciary responsibility, which I'm sure they do, but two, there's some legal ramifications that if, some things were to go sideways financially in the town, that they would be held accountable for. And I just want to make sure all the cards are on the table and they're all turned up.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Ingalls, final thoughts?
No. I have more experience on this one, and I'm learning as I'm listening. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Okay, so we'll take this up again at our next meeting, and thank you everyone for the time spent on it. Last item is the town's land use fee schedules. As you recall, we sent out requests to the land use departments about possibly updating their fee schedules. On the one hand, this is not a good time to be raising fees for anything. On the other hand, if we don't draw fees where we can, the taxpayers end up holding the bag for the balance. So I would like to see us take another look at land use fee schedules. So this is specific to building permits, application fees, everything having to do with land use. They haven't been updated in some time, and I believe we'd be remiss if we didn't remind the departments again, but I'd like to get the other two counselors' thoughts on that.
Well, Bill, this is Councilor Malone. I would certainly support a marginal increase, in permits and fees, but not anything that's drastic or, not 20%. I understand that,
Sure. Yeah.
we haven't increased them in years, but to lay, a heavy burden on people trying to build a home or improve their home or whatever the permits and fees are, I don't think at this point, in the life cycle of in Ledyard would be a great point to hit them with a heavy burden. But I would certainly support, a marginal and reasonable increase based on times.
That's kind of what I had in mind, Councilor Malone. If you don't keep up with your fee increases, all of a sudden you have to have a huge fee increases, and then everybody's upset. So we learned that with the WPCA by not passing along their costs. They one year came into town council with a 30% rate increase, and because we didn't pass the 30% rate increase, it took years to catch up. And it wasn't that we didn't pass the 30% rate increase, it was they hadn't kept the rates up in keeping with their costs. So I'm really talking about being in tune with other towns so that Ledyard is not a good deal for commercial development expenses.
So can I add one thing for you?
Yeah, sure.
So the Planning and Building Department is working on a report right now which covers 8 or 10 different towns. And they are going to have that ready for your next finance meeting with recommendations.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. That's good to know. That would satisfy me. I think you too, Tom?
Yeah, certainly. Again,
Okay.
I understand we need to stay current with the times, but I don't want to ignore anybody.
Yeah. Councilor Ingalls?
Mayor answered my question. I was going to say that in the agenda packet, I saw our fee schedule, but I didn't see any comparative schedule. So I was going to ask about that. So I'll look forward to seeing that.
Excellent. Okay, that's all we have. Anything to add? Any final comments?
Meeting.
Oh, we're getting better at this.
Well done.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. This meeting is adjourned at 5:54 p.m.
Good night.
See you next week.
Night all.
Night.
Night. Okay, the recorder's off, Roxanne.